Welcome to the Real Life Weight Loss Podcast, where we cut through the confusion and get down to the truth about what really works for real people when it comes to losing weight, having incredible health, and a body that you love. We believe that losing weight is really about gaining life, doing things you never thought you could, having renewed confidence, and enjoying your body more than ever. I'm your host, Corey Little. Now let's get to it. Hello, my friends. Welcome back. This is episode number 314, and today I'm going to talk about one of the most common mistakes that I see when coaching people with weight loss and nutrition and exercise. Honestly, I believe it's one of the most common mistakes that a lot of us make in a lot of areas of life, and it's something that I call the junk drawer syndrome. Now, hopefully that piques your interest and you'll hang around. This is probably going to be a quick little episode, but it's something that I think can be really helpful, really beneficial. So let's start with a story that perfectly encapsulates this. It's not an example of the junk. Well, it kind of is an example of the junk drawer syndrome. It just has nothing to do with weight loss. So one time I was talking to a friend of mine, and he was like, "Oh yeah, my wife. We're kind of busy tomorrow. My wife has to clean the house before the cleaners come." And I was like, "Wait, I'm sorry. Excuse me. What? Did you say your wife has to clean the house before the cleaners come?" And he kind of chuckled and smiled, nodded his head. He's like, yeah. She refuses to let, the maids, the house cleaners, like they obviously had someone who would come clean the house once a week or once every 2 weeks or once a month. I don't know. But someone who would come to professionally clean their house, on a regular basis. And he said, my wife has to clean before the cleaners come because she doesn't want them to see the state of the house, basically. She wants, she doesn't want them to see how bad it gets in between their visits. And this, my friends, perfectly sums up the junk drawer syndrome. Cleaning your house before the cleaners come. Now, how does all this relate to losing weight and just life in general? Well, believe it or not, like I said earlier, I see it all the time. It's one of the most common mistakes that I see, and I would be willing to bet money that you are making this mistake in some area of your life. It's this feeling, this urge, this belief that we have to get our stuff up. Like, I've got to get my stuff together. I've got to get it figured out, figure out what's going on with me, clean myself up, clean this up, what's wrong with me, etc. I've got to do all of that. And then after that, I'll be able to get started. Then after that, I'll reach out for help, or I'll take action, or I'll get some coaching. It's like, hey, let me clean the house before the help comes. Let me clean the house before the cleaners come. It's their job to clean the house. It's not yours, right? It's let me move this couch by myself, and then I'll invite a friend over to help. What? What is the point of that? The whole point of having someone come over is to help you move the couch so you don't have to do it by yourself. Again, I call this the junk drawer syndrome, and I see it all the time. Here's the way it often will manifest with people in my coaching group. They maybe are struggling. They're struggling with some part of the process. They're struggling with weight loss, and I have no idea. I and my other coaches, we have no idea, and we're powerless to help them because we don't know what's going on because they haven't spoke up. And in their mind, they would tell you the whole reason I haven't spoken up is because I don't even know if I know what to speak up about. I just know I'm struggling. I got to figure it out first. I got to figure out what's going on with me, what's going on in my head before I can bring this to you, Corey. I got to figure out what's going on before I can get help, before I can get coaching. Now, how does this relate to junk drawer? Why do I call this the junk drawer syndrome? Well, first of all, let me be clear. It's not effective. It's not helpful. We'll get into more of that in a minute. But I like to call it the junk drawer syndrome because almost all of us, if you think about it, we all have a junk drawer somewhere in our house, somewhere in your apartment, somewhere where you live, you have a drawer that's kind of the catch-all. It's got some old remote controls. It's got a handful of batteries that may or may not have a little juice, a little charge left to them. It maybe has a random screwdriver or a pair of pliers. It has 2 or 3 instruction manuals for things you may or may not own anymore. For those older people like me, maybe there's an old phone book in there with, numbers to some local businesses or, just a bunch of other papers and knickknacks and paper clips and thumbtacks and all kinds of stuff, right? It's the junk drawer. It's the catch-all. Now let's imagine that you wanted to clean out and organize your junk drawer. What would be more helpful? To take the junk drawer totally out of the shelf, out of the cabinet, whatever holds the junk drawer, to take it totally out and dump it all out on the counter and spread it all out so that you can see everything and then sort through it there, and then to neatly put everything back into it that you need to keep? What would be better and more effective and more efficient? That, or just barely pulling the drawer out and then looking at everything in it and then trying to, while it's still in the shelf, right, while it's still contained in there and you can barely reach things and you can't hardly see everything and it's not out and clear for you to look at, to try to organize and sort through things while it's still there. I think we can all agree that the easier option, the better option, the more efficient option is to take the drawer out and dump it all out, and then let's just sort through it all. We'll figure out what we need to keep and what can be tossed. That's the junk drawer scenario. And the junk drawer syndrome that we experience, what we do as humans is we try to meticulously sort through everything while it's still in the drawer. We barely pull it out, mentally speaking, right? What we do in our life. We have a junk drawer in our brain, in our head, and it catches a bunch of different crap. And we don't even know what all's in there. And so we try to barely pull it out, and I'm going to figure this all out and try to sort through it. And then once I do, then I'll have someone help me out. But this doesn't work, my friends. And so what I encourage people in my coaching group to do, I'm like, look, even if you don't know what you need help with, but you're just struggling, just come and just let it all out. Get it all out. Dump your junk drawer out on the table, and I'll help you sort through it. We'll go through it, and we will figure out what's the true underlying issue and what your best next step is. And so once people hear this, if they embrace it and they're courageous enough to do it, they're like, oh, wow, okay. And oftentimes people will jump on a coaching call, and they'll be like, okay, I feel like I need some help, but I don't even know if I have a question. Like, I feel weird. Like, I don't even know what my question is. And I'm like, that's great. That's okay. That's what I'm here for. Tell me what's going on. Just share. And usually, boom, within just a few minutes, I'm taking notes, and I can already see things that I can help them with and see things I can coach them with. And then once someone else sees this happen, they're like, oh, wow, I see the power in this. Okay, I'm going to do this next time. And so this is the beautiful thing about the junk drawer syndrome, is it's so easy to escape. Just pull the drawer out and dump it all out and let someone help you sort through it. Even if you don't let someone else, it's even easier for you to sort through it. Once you get it all out, maybe that's through journaling and through just writing out everything that's bouncing around in your head. But oftentimes it can be so helpful to have someone else sort through things with you. Now, before we go any further, let me just outline very clearly some of the problems with this mentality, with this junk drawer mentality, this junk drawer syndrome, okay? And it's when we don't dump the drawer out. It's when we feel like we've got to sort through it. We've got to figure it all out and figure out what's going on, figure out what's wrong, and then I'll get started. Then I'll reach out for help. Then I'll, get someone to help me with this. When we do that, there are some problems that happen. The first thing is it's just not necessary. It can be unnecessarily hard. It's like the lady who's cleaning her house before the cleaners come. Just let them do it. Just let them do it. You don't have to do that. Or it's like insisting on moving your couch before you invite people to help you move your furniture. No, like that's the whole point of inviting people, is to let them help you. It's not necessary, my friends. And it just makes your life unnecessarily hard, unnecessarily difficult. That's the first big thing. The second thing is, often it doesn't work. Matter of fact, usually it doesn't work. And a big part of the reason is we can't see what we can't see. You might have heard me talk about this before on the podcast. I might have discussed it a few episodes ago. Let's imagine you had something between your teeth, but no mirror. Maybe you can sort of feel it. Maybe you can't, but you're trying to get it and you're struggling. You don't know where it's at. And so it would be so helpful to have someone else come along and go, hey, yeah, you've got something between your front teeth. No, it's not that one. It's a little more over. No, it's up a little bit. It's down a little bit, right? Like this person can see things that you can't see. That's what a great therapist or coach or sometimes a trainer can do, is to help you see what you can't see. And if you insist on trying to do it all yourself, well, then in a way you're going to be guessing and checking. And sadly, it usually doesn't work. The third problem with this junk drawer mentality is that it can possibly fuel or reinforce an unhealthy belief that you should be totally self-reliant and never need help or guidance from anyone else. Now, here's the thing. I'm all about being independent and self-reliant to an extent, like that's great, right? I don't think it's necessarily a really great thing to be totally reliant on other people all the time for all sorts of things. Some situations in life require that, but I understand if you're like, wait a minute, Corey, wait, I like to be self-reliant. I like to be independent. I understand that. I totally get that. But here's a fact of life. Sometimes we need help. Sometimes we need guidance from someone else. And if we don't do it, if we're not willing to go, you know what? Yeah, I'm independent, but maybe I need some help right here. Maybe I need some guidance. If we don't do that, then it can just fuel our ego and just make our pride run on overdrive so that we never feel like we should ask for help or ask for anyone else to step in and provide guidance. And that's just not a healthy place to be, in my opinion, mentally or emotionally. That's the third problem. The fourth problem with the junk drawer mentality is that bad things grow in the dark. In other words, it can fuel and grow shame, embarrassment, and secrecy. And now, even if we think of like the story that I started with, right? Like the lady who cleans her house before the cleaners come. If the real reason for that is that she doesn't want the cleaners to see how bad it gets, well, it's because she's embarrassed. I'm embarrassed with the level of dirtiness or how unkept the house is. So if they just come and see all of this mess, I'm going to be so embarrassed. I'm going to be ashamed. So I would rather that stay secret only for me and my family to see. And then when the cleaners come, well, they can do the extra cleaning. Now, understand, this is very different because some of you may be going, oh, wow, like, yeah, sometimes my house is unkept and kind of messy. And before people come over, I really like to clean it up. I'm not talking about before you have company. The whole point of having cleaners is so that they do the cleaning and you don't have to. This is a totally different scenario. And so that's a very simple and kind of lighthearted topic. But when we get into deeper things, more personal things, more emotional-based things, what maybe our food habits, maybe our thoughts around our body or you know, why we struggle and maybe we failed so many times in the past with our weight loss or at a certain area of life, or maybe just how much we're snacking, and maybe we're not proud of that. If we keep it in the dark, if we don't share it with anyone, then it grows. And when I say it grows, it gains power. It gains power in its secrecy. It gains more and more power over us. It fuels and grows more shame and embarrassment and secrecy. And then that just further ingrains this thought that you've got to figure this out yourself. Don't tell anybody. Don't ask for help. This could be embarrassing. You're already kind of ashamed of it. Keep it to yourself. Keep it in the dark. Figure it out. Now it's not even a question of do I want to get help. It's I've got to figure this out on my own because I don't feel comfortable telling anybody. I don't feel comfortable asking for help. One of my favorite songs, one of my favorite lyrics from one of my favorite songs, it says, "In darkness it gathers. It gathers and it grows. In darkness it gathers. In sunlight it scatters." And that's what I think of with this. So many times, my friends, if there's an area of life where we start to feel a little shame or embarrassment and we want to keep it more secret, that's our knee-jerk reaction. I totally get it. I do the same thing. It can be so helpful to go the opposite direction and to bring it to light. In sunlight, it scatters, and in darkness, it gathers. Don't let it gather. We want it to scatter. Okay, now, those are the 4 problems with this junk drawer mentality. So here's the question I think we all need to ask. Why do we do it, right? Well, piggybacking right off of the final point there with how it can grow shame and embarrassment and secrecy in the dark, I think that's one of the biggest reasons we do it. Is number one, we're just embarrassed. We're embarrassed and we don't want to bring this out to the light. We don't want, if we ask someone for help, then it's admitting that, hey, I have an issue and maybe I don't know what to do about it. And then that brings us to number 2. The second reason that we do it is we have a thought or idea of I should be able to figure this out. I should be able to do this on my own. And like I mentioned earlier, and this is going to step on some people's toes, and I'm stepping on my own toes, that's pride, my friends. That's pride, and it can be fueled by our embarrassment or shame or wanting to keep it secret. But a lot of that is just ego and pride going, hey, this is ridiculous. You shouldn't need anyone else to help you figure this out. Figure this out on your own. Come on. You're an independent and strong woman. You're an independent and self-reliant man. Figure this out on your own. And that's just not a helpful or healthy belief and mindset to slip into. And then the third reason that I believe we do this is that we have this mistaken idea that no one else can help until we kind of figure this out, until we get more clarity and I figure out what the real problem is. But here's the thing. That's exactly what a great coach or therapist or trainer does. They help you see what you can't see. They help provide clarity. Often they can identify the real underlying problem that you might be missing and maybe you've been missing for years. So, in light of all I've shared, here are my questions for you. Are you doing this in some area of life? Are you doing this when it comes to your weight loss? Are you doing this when it comes to your physical health? Are you doing this in some other area of your life? Do you always insist on doing things or figuring things out on your own? And I get it, that can have a lot of perks and benefits, but you know the difference between just being independent versus slipping into this junk drawer mentality that I've described today. So do you always insist on doing things or figuring things out on your own, even when it may be detrimental? Are you hesitant to ask for help? And my last question, do you feel like you've got to get your stuff figured out, figure out what's going on with you and what's wrong with you, et cetera, and then only after you do that will you take action. Then you'll get started, and then maybe you'll get some help. If after answering these questions you feel like, man, I don't really want to admit it, but yeah, maybe I am falling into this junk drawer syndrome and this junk drawer mentality, and maybe I just need to dump it all out on the counter and sort through it. Well, if you're identifying with that and you feel like you're falling into this, then I encourage you to not try to do it all on your own. Maybe stop trying to get it all figured out before you take action or ask a question or get help. That help, that person or program or coach or therapist will probably, here's the thing that we haven't even mentioned yet, they will probably expedite the process for you in a major way, meaning you'll get results faster. You'll find progress and success so much faster than if you just keep banging your head against the wall trying to do it all on your own or insisting that you do it all on your own. They will help you see what you can't see. They'll help you have more clarity and identify the underlying problem that you might be missing and that maybe you've been missing for years and years and years. So, if you're falling for the junk drawer syndrome, maybe have an honest conversation with yourself and maybe seek some help in some area. And I don't mean this in some massive, deep way like, oh, you are sick and you need help. No, it's just maybe some small area of life. Or maybe it's a larger area of life. Either way, there's no shame, there's no judgment, there's no embarrassment. Asking for help can be one of the most powerful and amazing things you do. And as I just said, it can expedite the process for you to find progress and success way faster than you ever have in the past. Okay, my friends, I hope this has been helpful. And as I say in so many episodes, I hope you'll share it with someone. And I hope that the 2 or 3 of you will get together to discuss it and maybe say, hey, do you feel like I'm falling into the junk drawer syndrome in some area of my life? Just because you don't fall into it in all areas doesn't mean you may not fall into it in one area. That's actually probably much more common. So share it with someone and you guys discuss it, maybe bounce text back and forth or sit down and have a cup of coffee and talk about the Real Life Weight Loss Podcast. I would love that. I would be honored by that. And if you have a couple extra minutes, I would be absolutely honored if you would take the time to post a review. And last but not least, don't you ever forget that there's so much more to you than a number. So don't let the scales dominate your headspace and dictate your emotions for the day because, oh my goodness, there's so much more to you than that. And remember that losing weight is incredible. It's amazing, but it's not going to fix all your problems in life. Really, losing weight is all about gaining life and living the life that you want to live. And that's a complex process. It takes a lot more than just dropping pounds off on the scales. That's part of it, but that's not all of it. And here's the thing. I know you can do it. I know you can lose weight, and I know you can carve out the life that you want for yourself, even if you've tried and failed. Even if you're falling into the junk drawer mentality and you're resistant and hesitant to step out of your comfort zone and ask for help. Even if all those things apply, it's okay. It's okay. You keep coming back. I'll keep working on you. We will help you take steps and get to where you want to be. Thank you so much for your time today, my friends. Take care. God bless. Bye-bye.